What is going on, guys? We are here live every Sunday. Welcome to Console Kids Podcast. Those in the chat, say hello, tell me where you're from, and we can get to know each other a little bit better. I'll select your name, and it should show up on the map here. What is going on, Sean? It's good to hear from you. Ashton, we got in Seattle. We got some questions. We got confessions to make. I got another confession to make. Yeah, let's talk about that. We got, sorry if I blew your ears out. So Washington, what's going on? Let's see, it keeps on scrolling down. We got Console Fanboy here. You got to check out his new video. This guy won't leave the home arcade community until he gets 1,000 views on non-home arcade content. What's going up on Ralphie? Let's see, we got Terry. What's going on? Darth in the chat. Stop auto-scrolling. Why does it keep auto-scrolling? I don't know. I got to play around with this tool a little bit. We're going to be talking about topics tonight. MK Class of 1981 starting to show up at people's home before retail. What is happening? We got a first look at Foo Fighters gameplay, the Pro and the LE from Stern. That's pretty exciting. And let's see, what else we're going to be talking about. There's 2 Arcade1up leaks. I want to get your feedback on that tonight. After the show, there's going to be a party at B's house. So we're all going over to his house, a.k.a. his YouTube channel. What is going on? I don't know. Is it SNES 2018 or is it SNES 2018? New York checking in. Game Bro in Houston. We got Justin Nelson in Minnesota. My neighbor shares the same name. That's awesome. We got KidVid. We're going to be talking about your content as well. KidVid has a YouTube channel. Go check out KidVid. He's got some content on there. I think he's a thief. David is a thief. That's what we're going to be talking about. I'm outing it out. No one else will say it, but I'm going to say it. This man is a thief, and we love him for that. What is up, Nooner? He's giving his, he's doxing himself completely. We got Alan coming in. I'm sorry, JJ coming in from Allen, Texas. Dude, I think you're going to the Texas convention. Did you know they're going to have like 10 of the new Foo Fighter pinballs at that Texas pinball convention? I don't know what it's called. You were saying that you were going to go. I won't be able to go. You got to check out. Stop the phone, everybody. The best new content creator on YouTube. His name is the bad guy, Mike Worley. He's been in this chat for ages. The #1 best content creator in the home arcade space. Just join the scenes. The bad guy, Mike Worley. Every single one of his videos is amazing. It is the reason why I downloaded the YouTube app was for this guy, bad guy, Mike Worley. I'm not joking. He is my favorite content creator on YouTube right now. And it's going to be a long while before that changes. Keep up the content, brother. Keep making it. Do your original stuff. It is so good. So good. So when I first started watching YouTube, yeah, you're a thief. We'll come back to David. When I first started watching YouTube, you know, like early 2000s, like, I don't know, 2009, 2010, somewhere in there, I was searching on YouTube for different content, and I wanted to find people that were making like home movies. That's what I thought YouTube was all about. And so I found this content creator. He was a kid, and I was in like my mid-20s at the time, and there was this kid, and I think he was very rich. He had like a very nice house, but maybe he's like 17 years old. He would make, like, I want to say M. Night Shyamalan. The guy looked Indian, so maybe I'm like saying M. Night because, but here's the thing. M. Night Shyamalan, you know, he's kind of a guy that made movies as a kid. It's coincidental. It's a coincidence of you know, where this kid comes from. Anyway, he made this content. They were like scary movies. And it was just him and his friends. The storylines were so good. They were amazing. And I followed him for a while. Then his channel just got deleted. He wasn't even that big. Like he would have like, I don't know, like 20 views on a video, and I would just sit there like, what's the twist ending gonna be? Like, this dude was better than M. Night. And so anyway, the bad guy McWorley, he makes these little movies that are like about home arcade. The Dragon's Lair, like he throws the Dragon's Lair out into the field, and then it keeps on showing up in his day-to-day. His editing is only gonna get better. I know it. I'm laughing so hard. I'm enjoying the content. Keep it up. Everyone subscribe to Mike, because we got to encourage this guy. We got to encourage this guy to make more content. You do something very original, and I think it's really awesome. I'm not joking. I'm not hyping it up. It's a little corny. It is. But that's what makes it work. That's what makes it super entertaining, is how he's able to just film content at his house, edit it, and be clever and make, clever content. And man, it's so great. I think a lot of you in the community that have been following Bad Guy McWorley for a while already know this. I think he's been making content for several weeks. I'm just kind of new to discovering him, but YouTube is smart. They're just like every day, like, boom, here's more, here's more Bad Guy McWorley. Anyway, so I can't say enough about his content. Keep it up, man. I look forward to watching more content from you. Anyway, so where are you from, Big Reese? Let's see if you show up on the list. There you go. Don't hold it against Mike for being... Is that right? That's funny. Let's see who else we got in the list here. I got to fix this thing. Oh, let me just scroll this other one. That's the real-time view. Ah, there we go. Now we can get some more people from Michigan. Look, we're seeing... go check out his channel, man. It's very good. Expect the content to be a little corny, but expect it to be corny in a good way. Riverside, California. There we go. All right, guys. So today we're going to be talking about Mortal Kombat, Class of 1981. This is the coming soon list from Arcade1Up. If you go to their website, you'll see this. And this is the... don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you so much for the $2 donation. How to Bachelor. Appreciate that. So, coming soon, this is what Arcade1Up is saying. And what we've been talking about this week, some other content creators and I have been talking about this. Some of them have made content on it, and it seems as though, let's see, Mortal Kombat and Class of 1981, we've already seen some early looks at what the cabinet looks like. Now, B and I were at CES, and we got to see Ms. Pac-Man. It's really interesting because when we were there, we just saw, what was it, Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man. So Mortal Kombat wasn't there, Mortal Kombat 2. So we didn't have a good idea of what that was going to look like. What I've learned this week is how it looks like these newer cabinets are going to be like the next level up from Yoga Flame from last year. So the Yoga Flame that I have behind me, it's a tall cabinet. It's not like Big Blue, but they really made it, Big Blue is like tall, but it's like the height is all marquee. But with these newer 2022 edition with a riser, the actual control panel goes up pretty high. It's extremely comfortable where the monitor sits and where the marquee sits. It's very practical to play. In 2023, what we're learning is they're coming out with the deluxe version. And now that we're seeing, yes, Justin, are you corny too? I try to be. That's my goal. Very much, very much. Let's see. But the goal for Arcade1Up is to take these new deluxe size cabinets, and they're also tall. And I like how Constorm put it. Keith put it this way. He said, the new deluxe cabinets are like the XL versions, except for smaller. So they're basically the seam line cabinets, no riser, And there's kind of been this illusion, or perspective that the cabinets are going to be really skinny. And I get that, because I'll tell you, a few people reached out to me and said, do the Arcade1Up Deluxe cabinets that you saw at CES, do they look skinny? And I was like, well, I know what you're talking about. It's like, because there's not a riser, it doesn't look as wide. And that's accurate. You're losing a few inches at the base of the unit, but I think you're gaining so much more. That height of the MK is 61 inches. Is that right, chat? 61 inches, which is the same height as like the Yoga Flame series, but then this just doesn't have, doesn't have a riser. So let me take a look at it. We got Kid Vid, David himself. He's posted some videos. Go check out his channel. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's right. I remembered to subscribe to him this time. So if you go check out his channel, this video here, he's got a side-by-side of the older MK and the brand new Deluxe MK. And what's interesting about this is he probably shouldn't have this cabinet. These have not made it to retail. I'm going to stop for a second there. C. Marvel, I know you've been asking this question. I want to talk about Smack on Deluxe Deluxe Class of 81 until I buy it and compare the ROM. Here's the deal, man. I don't know for this for a fact, but I'm guessing it's like exactly the same firmware as the current of the class of 1981 that came out last year. I know that you're super excited that they fixed things. I don't think they fixed anything. I'm not saying that to be mean or rude. It's just I want to tell you exactly what I would bet on. My bet is this new generation is the only difference is they moved it to Deluxe. And I think what they did was they took advantage of the ROM set that they already have, the firmware package, the game lineup. They didn't touch a thing, is my guess. And if they did anything different, maybe the splash is slightly different, but I'm guessing they did not invest any more time and resources into these deluxe versions. I say that because I would love to be surprised that, oh, wow, like they've added spectate mode, or if they did that, it would be like in a firmware update at this point. Yeah, I'm guessing it's going to be the same ROM. So any complaint, C. Marvel, that you have for Galaga, and I know your criteria for Galaga is very high, you're going to be complaining this year, is my guess. And we need people like you that are experts at those specific games to really explain to Arcade1Up, because they don't get it. They don't understand. That's the one thing all of us have learned. I was reading old tweets from Cool Toy the other day, and to make myself feel better. And so he made this post. Someone had said, someone should really work with them. And he says, I've talked to them several times. This is Cool Toy. I talked to them several times, and I try to get them to help, but they just won't listen. And that was years ago. That tweet was years ago. Nothing has changed. The reality is Arcade1Up is a company that fell backwards into the situation where they got a license for all these cabs. Scott had a really good idea to be able to get these into retail and their scale, and it all made sense. And now they have a challenge, and their challenge is, how do we please an audience that demands, these high-value quality integrations? They don't know what they're doing. But with us giving them feedback, I think that Arcade1Up has made the changes that the community wants when it's very clear, when it's become clear to them, and they start to understand those complaints, and it gets to the right people, then they make those changes. And C. Marvel, I want to say that because there's been so many Galagas that came out over the time, and you've picked on it and said, this isn't right, This is not your problem. This is their problem. But I think because you know that ROM really well and how it should work, and I don't, if we can figure out a way to harness your power, channel it into the flux capacitor, it just might work. What I'm trying to say is, if we can figure out a way to articulate very precisely what is wrong with very specific things with Arcade1Up, and we feed them that information in a bullet point, in an email, maybe it's a video that's 30 seconds long that just gets to the right person, then they'll fix it. But that's really hard. There's so much noise. You're trying to get that message to them. There's so much noise, and all they hear is griping and complaining. What they need is something very succinct and very constructive and very narrowed, and you got to tell them what to do. Give them specific instructions of this is what's wrong, this is how you fix it. He says their online version of the Namcom ROMs would have been obviously off, but they have offline counterparts. Yeah, I would love to try to figure out a way. See, Marvel, if you want to reach out to me on the side, if you want to be on the show sometime and you can make your elevator pitch of what's wrong with Class of 1981. I'd love to give you that platform to be able to scream your complaints as loud as you can, and then maybe we clip that video and we send it to Arcade1Up and be like, listen, we had C Marvel on, this is what's going on, whatever. I don't know, maybe it'll help. So Class of 1981 Deluxe is coming out. The shape of the cabinet is pretty interesting. I want to talk about that monitor in just a second. I know monitor gate all over, but I'm gonna try to be very straightforward of what my feedback is. So the MK2 Deluxe side-by-side comparison, I think the monitor is going to be great on this newer cabinet, and you can kind of see how if you have the original MK2, kind of the Gen 1, Gen 2, you can see how this one's going to be taller. It's going to be more slanted. KidVid has another video on here. You can kind of see how it lines up with the Killer Instinct that is over there, but you got the slight slant on the MK. And then he did capture the loading screen of the Mortal Kombat. I think that's pretty fantastic. People can take a look at it. And then inside this video, let me see if I can crank up the volume here. This is what I got excited about. If you take a look closer inside here, he starts to show the sound, and I'm guessing that the sound is a pretty decent quality, similar to that we found at CES. Look at the speaker grill. Yeah. From my headphones, I mean, it's through his his phone, over the internet, my headphones. But what I hear is a good sound. I'd love to hear KidVid, like, what do you think? Do you think in person, does it sound really loud? The CES version that I saw of the Class of 1981, what we found was when we were playing games, anything above 10 or 11 was really loud. But as you got higher to 15, it was just louder, but it wasn't like distorted. It was really nice. And so you can kind of see right here, he goes above that. He's at 8. And I'm guessing he went to 8 because that's a comfortable level. And then earlier, I think he kind of cranked it up a little bit more, right? When he got closer. So I think we'd love to hear some more feedback. Yeah. KidVid says the sound, where does he say it? The sound is loud, very loud. Okay, so a 5 was loud. Okay, and then, it goes to 11. Now, do we know, is it true that if you go higher than like 11 into the 15, that, does it distort? Give me a yes if it does distort. If you're like, yeah, anything above 12 starts to sound like crap, like say that if that's the case. While we're waiting on that, Console Fanboy Super Chat, he says, very excited about the MK2 Deluxe. It's what Arcade1Up should have done from day one, of course, but they're not going to do that. They're doling out all of the feature upgrades so they can make a lot of money over time. He says, day one in terms of aesthetics, side artwork looks great, way better than 2019. Good question, Carl O. He says, the speaker size, I think the speakers are the same size speakers. And I remember there was a stream where John D, or maybe it was Cyrus, was saying that they did go with a different vendor for the speakers, but the speakers are the same size. Does that sound right, B? If B's in the chat. Didn't he say that? I think so. Because we were like, are the speakers better? And he's like, no, like it's just and so we were there kind of talking through it. We're like, okay, so the speaker grill is going to make a big difference. Think of the Arcade1Up cabinets that most people have that don't have a speaker grill. There's wood, and then there's like a handful of holes inside that wood. Now imagine that you cut out that hole and allow the speaker to fully like breathe out its sound, and then now there's just the speaker grill. I would assume that alone would make it louder, right? Because before you have all that wood, and yeah, the wood could help like reverberate it or whatever, but allowing it to just have that exposure, I think, is going to create sound. Now, when it came to the class of 1981 that we were playing with, that's inside like this chamber, and that's we thought like that was going to make the sound so much better because of this chamber. But when you hear the MK2, which doesn't have that chamber, if you will, I just think they did. Yeah, he said yes, they did something to optimize something. And I remember, I think it was Paul. Paul maybe was saying how there's probably not much that Arcade1Up would have to do to optimize it. It's all about the op amp that's inside the PCB. If they get that to be optimized and the circuits logically set out, it's not like it needs more power. It's just the way that speaker drives. They spend some time optimizing on it. And then if they do have better quality speakers, and now they have that speaker grill, you throw it all together, and now you have a little bit better audio system. So that's some of the highlights that I found interesting with this new Mortal Kombat 2. But I want to talk about that class of 1981. Here's what I think is going on. If you take a look at the Mortal Kombat 2 as a comparison, these are all supposed to be BOE. All of them. All of them supposed to be BOE. And then Constorm sent me the model number of the BOE monitor that's on this Mortal Kombat. It's the same one that we've seen forever. Now, did BOE ship worse quality BOE monitors? Hard to say, but this does not look bad at all when it comes to Mortal Kombat. Now, the reason why it would look great, Mortal Kombat is a full color game. So, that's probably like the best quality situation that you would see out of any game is something super colorful. But when the game goes dark, that's where you can look for the quality degrading, where you can see some light bleeding. And that's the question. Does it have any light bleeding? And so far, like this is a dark screen, you can kind of tell he has the room lights on, but I don't really see any dark bleeding on this particular cab. Again, you kind of see past those two lights. Those are the room lights. Look for variations of color near the corner. I don't see variations in color near the corner. Now, maybe those lights are bleeding it out. But here's the thing. In the past, when Arcade1Up, Gen 1 Arcade1Up monitors, everyone says they were bad. But do you remember there was a handful of people saying, no, it's not the TN monitor from the Gen 1 that was actually bad. It was the power they were using to drive that monitor. So even with the TN monitor, which no one likes, one of the reasons why it got a bad rap from Gen 1 is because they were overpowering the backlight behind the monitors. So behind the monitor, there's these LEDs. It's like LED strips, basically. And if those are turned on too bright, you get bleeding on the edge. And do you remember there was a handful of, there we go, the real medic for you. That's what I'm talking about, right? Remember Gen 1, there was a fix. And on eBay, you could spend $15. And what it was is it was basically this pot that you would connect the voltage that's going from the Arcade1Up PCB to the monitor, and you could lower the voltage that's going to that monitor. It's not going to make a difference of the power of your home. It's not going to make a difference on that DC adapter. It's all about the inner electricity between that PCB and the monitor that drives those lights. And if they're on too bright, you're going to get bleeding on the side. If you have TN or you have BOE, it doesn't matter. If you have IPS, it doesn't matter. If the backlight is too bright, it's going to suck. So what is happening with the class of 1981? First of all, I don't know, but I do want to offer this particular thing. That's right. Berry Sneaky is the one that did the analysis and came out with a mod for Gen 1, and it made it look good. This was especially for like the Asteroids cabinet, the Deluxe cabinets, those games that had, black in the background. But by the time Arcade1Up came out with their Gen 3 cabinets, it wasn't necessarily moving to BOE. That was part of it. But the other part was just getting the power regulation correct to the monitor. And so if you go look at the circuitry of the PCB, the entire side of it is the power. It receives power, distributes it to the chips, and passes that power through some voltage regulation to the monitor. And it was just better. It was just done better. My question is, yeah, we've been confirmed that it's BOE. We got to look at what a BOE looked like on Mortal Kombat. What if Arcade1Up screwed up two things on the class of 1981? And that's my question. And what are those two things? It could be, and I saw this in person, and so I saw what it looked like. And I want you to listen very carefully, because I think it's very easy for anyone to hear what I'm about to say and then scoff at it and walk away. But hear the whole thing, okay? This is the thing that you're about to scoff at. When I'm standing in front of the class of 1981, and B, tell me your opinion if you're still in the chat. It looks good when you're standing in front of it. Get ready to scoff. Now, why would someone scoff at that? Because we've said that before, or people have said that before about various monitors. But here's the thing I want to share. This is a little different. Where you have heard in the past where, oh, if you stand right in front of it, it looks great, but if you go to the side, the TN monitors look horrible. That's not what I'm talking about. There is something different with this monitor. What it is you can't really move to the left or right because it's in like a cavity, right? So if there is no real strange angle that would cause it to have a ton of light bleed. But it is true that if you're standing right in front of it looking down, it's comfortable. The slant is awesome. The problem is when you walk 10 feet away from the cab or you walk 5 feet away from the cab, something about this monitor is just off. And this is why B and I were puzzled at CES. Because why was it when you're standing in front of it, it looked great? But when you walked away, it looked horrible. It's like something new was going on. Like, this is different. But it is BOE. And that was the big question. Yeah, we were talking about it's playable, right? We were like, what is different about this monitor? So when B and I ended the stream while we were with Arcade1Up at CES, literally, like, John was messaging, what the hell is up with that monitor? He wanted Cyrus to go figure out what the model number is and figure it all out. And everything we heard was, there's nothing wrong with the monitor. It's a BOE. It's the same monitor that's in all the other cabs. So I ask you, why does it have light bleed? And now I come back to the beginning. They screwed up Gen 1, not necessarily because of the monitor, but because on some of those cabinets, they were overdriving the power. So I think it's very possible that Arcade1Up got the right monitor, but with this class of 1981, potentially two things are screwing it up. The slant, so when you walk away, you have the most extreme scenario of a cabinet. It's leaned furthest away in the most unflattering way from far away. So we asked for slant, and the slant is great when you're standing in front of it, but for some reason, far away, it looks horrible. Second piece, it's possible that even when you're standing in front of it and you don't have that extreme angle, you can't deny that the edges of Galaga, and you've probably seen videos of this, look like there's light bleed. Why is there light bleed on a BOE monitor? I think they're overpowering. I think they are overpowering the monitor. I think the class of 1981 PCB, they changed something. A different capacitor, a voltage regulator, just some stupid chip that I would... This would be my test. You know, if I was an engineer, electronics engineer for Arcade1Up, I would say, give me a class of 1981, 2023. Give me the 2022 version. I'm going to get a voltage. I'm going to get a voltage meter, and I'm going to check out that voltage pin that's going to that monitor. And I would bet that this new class of 1981 is a couple of voltage higher. And if they just lowered it down, the light bleed would go away. But that's the light bleed. That's just the corners would stop bleeding as much. You're basically dimming the lamp a little bit. The LEDs that are behind the monitor, you would be dimming them. They're on too bright. So that's one problem. And then the second problem is there's a slant. And I think it's the extreme angle. Like the angle could be too extreme. And so to answer that, is the angle too extreme? And if you're thinking about upgrading to a class of 1981, I have not done this test yet, but you're welcome to it. This is what I would recommend. If we want to figure out if the slant is too extreme, take your existing class of 1981 and literally lay it on the floor. Lay it flat on the floor and then turn it on. You've now recreated this extreme slant. And then kind of look at it. It's a BOE monitor. Do you see that same ghosty thing like you see in pictures? Now, I've heard other people say, like, hey, you know, when you're using a camera, it doesn't pick up great. Sure, that's true. But there's too many people that are like, that monitor doesn't look right. We never say that about these things. They always look great. So I think something is going on with the monitor. And Arcade1Up is like, look, it's BOE, it's BOE. Stop with that. There's still something wrong. I'm sorry to say it, but something is wrong with that monitor. Not for MK, but the slant, the class of 1981, the dark background. I don't know what it is, but something is wrong with that monitor. And if someone can figure it out, the faster we can figure it out, and if we could figure out concisely exactly what the problem is and be like, it's too much voltage or it's the slant, if someone can crack the code, then we can get that information to the right people. And it could be too late. I doubt any of this could be fixed with a firmware update. But maybe Very Sneaky could come out with an adapter. And if you're like, man, the class of 1981 is the definitive class of 1981 cabinet, I must have it. It's the deluxe version, but I don't want that ghosting. Well, if someone cracks the code and figures out the solution, and you'd be like, okay, fine, I'll spend $15 for an adapter. $15 is no big deal. Very Sneaky, a really awesome guy in the community, then gets $15 for the hard work that he did. You plug that sucker in, you dial it back, the ghosting goes away, you're happy. Or Arcade1Up can get this information. They can talk to their electronics engineer and be like, take a look at the power. Like, oh man, it's 6 volts instead of 5. Holy crap, we're overpowering the LEDs. Okay, turn it down. All right, JT is saying, already did. It's reflective light from behind the photographer. I'm a photographer teacher. It's reflected light. So I hear you, JT, and I fully accept your credibility. But while B and I were at CES, after the stream, I asked Cyrus to turn off all the lights. And of course, it looked better. But there was still something just not right with it. It just wasn't, it's different. There's something not right. And 100% I agree. I 100% agree that in these videos, let's see. In these videos, there are scenarios where, like this, right? Like the reflection of the light. It says, were you only seeing the light bleed from the top two corners? I want to say the top right, I want to say. But we even saw it on... Okay, so we were playing, what was it? We were playing that game that's on the Namco... it's not coming to my mind, but it's like letterboxed. When you're standing right in front of it and the lights were off, it looked beautiful. It looked great. It really did. If you walked back at an angle, you would see some ghostiness. But you had to be like 5, 10. The further back you went, the worse it looked. And so I imagined, Rolling Thunder. And so we were playing. I was playing Rolling Thunder, and it was like you could still see, and it was illuminating from the screen, though, man. It was illuminating from the screen. You could see it. You know when you take a monitor and you push on it, and it kind of has that like distorted effect. It was like that, but just there in the corner. And it just didn't look right. But at the time we were like, okay, we didn't even know if it was a BOE or not. Like at that time, they would not tell us it was a BOE. They would not. I asked Cyrus, I was like, grab a screwdriver. And he was like, why? I'm like, just give me a screwdriver. Like I was trying to get the answers. He's like, man, you want to look at the back, don't you? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I can't let you look at the back. I'm like, come on. Like if you let us look at the back, and if it's a TN monitor, we could tell you right now, hey, look, the prototypes are a TN monitor. Make sure the production ones are not TN monitor. And Cyrus said that they had not yet done, at that time at CES, they had not done the production run. So there was still some time. Yeah, that's right. Let me see if I can pull that up. B did something really cool, because it was like, there was a big question out there where like, what was the case of, hey B, you know what we'll do? You want to jump on in a little bit and you can show the raw gameplay. I think B's got a stream starting at the top of the hour. If he's got a minute, like maybe 5 minutes before the show, he can come in, join the conversation, talk about that raw gameplay. We can take a final look at it. So let's table this topic real quick, because we're on MK Class of 1981. I do want to talk about Foo Fighters, and there's 2 more leaks coming out. I don't even know if we'll have time. Maybe we can talk about leaks on B's stream. B's got a party tonight, and then 19K Fox has content tonight as well. I think he's going to be talking about it. But I do want to mention, let's table, jump on, man. Jump on a little bit. Let me talk about Foo Fighters real quick. And let's see. So Foo Fighters, if you don't know about it, so on the Dead Flip channel, we got Jack Danger. He did 2 videos this last week showing off the gameplay. What am I trying to do? There we go. Showing off the gameplay of the Foo Fighters Pinball LE. And then later he did the Foo Fighters Pinball Pro. It was pretty sweet. I learned a lot of stuff from this, and I wanted to share kind of like my kind of feedback of the pin so far. I haven't really heard anyone like break it down. I don't know if I'm going to do an amazing job, but what I can say is like this scene right here, like the way the gameplay for the Foo Fighters is, I like how they put it together. I like pinball games that are really simple. Do you know? Like the objectives are very clear and not contrived. And Attack from Mars is really awesome, right? Like you can get really far without even reading the instructions. You're like, oh, I got to aim for the aliens, right? That makes sense. Or Jurassic Park, you aim for the Jeep. Like you can get going and get some high scores just from kind of like obvious, like this is how the game is written. And I think it's really important when it's pretty obvious. But here's what I really like about it. So they have this like a van or a tour bus. I want to call it a tour bus, but in the game you have to spell van, so I think they're calling it a van. But on the left-hand side of the Foo Fighters machine, there's like this ramp, and then there's this van. I want to say tour bus. And then the ball will lock right there. So basically, when the game starts out, it's really cool. I was telling it to my daughter, it's like the game starts out, and you first start out by picking a song. And so you pick your favorite Foo Fighters song, and that's what this graphic is right here. You're like, which one do you want to do? You want to do Times Like These? You want to do Everlong? It doesn't really matter which one you pick. That is just the song you're going to listen to when the game starts. And if you get nowhere with the game, I guess that's the song that you're listening to. But once the game starts, one of your objectives is to get up this ramp here, which will come over to, let's see if I can get it to zoom in. I don't think I can get it to zoom in.
Right here, you can see that Mr. Danger can select.
This is what I'm talking about. So right here, there's a ramp. If you can get it up the ramp, you're going to get to this tour bus. So that's pretty cool. The objective is one of the objectives, I should say, is pretty clear. And so you can see what the animation is the moment you have that. It's going to take you to the screen. So it's kind of like you're going on tour. Right? Like you're in the band and you want to go on tour, and then you pick these different cities. Well, when you pick those different cities, you're actually selecting a different mode. So the objectives are going to completely change in the game. But also, each one of those cities is a different Foo Fighters song that's like dedicated to that city. And I think it's really, really cool. So you kind of pick which one it is, and then each one has its own objective. And after listening to the stream somewhere in here, I think around halfway, they kind of revealed like Austin is added. If you were to beat 2 or 3 cities, like you fully beat the city, get all the objectives on it, and Austin will unlock. I don't know if there's any more cities. He also mentioned something about there being like a wizard mode. So you know, I don't know if that's Austin's the wizard mode or there's yet another one. And then the other thing Jack Danger said that I thought was really cool is all the animations that are in the game. People were excited in the chat about all the different animations, but they said that they had left most of the awesome animations deeper into the game. Deeper in the game. So as you get further, it's kind of like you get rewarded for more and more gameplay. And so we have Garage Gamer says, I would play this pinball Everlong. Yeah. So, of course, I have another confession to make, and I put a pre-order in on this one. I have to thank my wife. Like, if those of you that joined the Foo Fighters live stream, you guys know that, I love Foo Fighters. They're great. One of my favorite bands of all time. They're basically the number 2 favorite band of all time. And my number 1 favorite band is Smashing Pumpkins. And I thought, well, they're never going to make a Smashing Pumpkins pinball machine. And so I was talking to my wife about all this, and I was like, remember I did a stream. I said it would be irresponsible for me to buy the Foo Fighters pinball because I'm a software engineer, and this year is pretty crazy when it comes to software engineering. There's a lot of companies, big companies, that are laying people off, and I'm not immune to that. And so it'd be very irresponsible for me to spend this money and then get laid off, and now I'm trying to look for another job, and there's a period of time where no money's coming in. So I'm not going to do that, right? But B, I'm going to blame B, was like, dude, you can put $250 down on a pre-order. So I did the math and everything. If I order from this particular one, I don't have to pay tax, not subject to tax, and it had free shipping, and I only had to put $250 down. And if for some reason I got laid off, I could cancel the pre-order. And so I have till like April to pay the rest of the money. And by April, I think I would know whether or not there's a risk for me. So I was like, oh, and so here's what's interesting is I didn't try to sell this to my wife. I was just I've been doing this more lately. I've just been telling her like, hey, this is how I feel. Like even today, I was thinking, I'm still thinking about getting a truck. I want to get a truck, but maybe not this year, maybe next year. And so I'm using terms like, this is my challenge. And she's like, no, we should totally get a Honda Pilot. It's like, my car is old. I want to get it replaced with a Honda Pilot. I was like, yeah, but we don't need a vehicle that large. So I started changing the way I was saying things. And I was like, well, some of the challenges that I have with getting a Honda Pilot is the gas mileage is not as good as like the Honda CR-V. The one that's hybrid is like 40 miles per gallon. So I think the economic choice would be better on a brand new CR-V, So anyway, I'm doing this, and she's coming back with like, well, that's not a priority for me. My priority is I just really like the extra space, because if we get together with family and we want to do that more, we can all go in one car. Anyway, it was a great conversation where we're all just no anger, no fighting. You know how it is. People bicker, but we're just telling each other like without any like, getting mad at each other, right? It's been great conversation. So I told her my challenge with the Foo Fighters. And I said, I want to get it, but I'm worried that I could get laid off. And she was like, so I said, I told her, hey, B came up with this idea of ordering it, but only putting a little bit of money down. And she's like, you can back out of it? I'm like, yeah. She goes, but how much is the shipping? I'm like, the shipping's free. She's like, how much is the tax? I was like, I'm not subject to tax. She goes, you should do it then. She goes, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't do it. She's Foo Fighters is obviously your favorite band. Like, you'll get it. I'm like, okay. So really happy about that. So yeah, that's number 5. That's the 5th pinball machine that I own, not including the Arcade1Up. And there's an auction coming April 1st. And yeah, something might have to go. It may, I don't know. I don't really know what's going to have to go. I have some ideas, but I'm not exactly sure. But what is going on, Mr. Kong?
I heard you keep blaming me for stuff that you did, and had to say, yeah, maybe I was a little bit of a bad influence, but oh no.
What happened with your camera?
I don't know. I moved something. So you can still hear me though?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, give me a second. I'll be right back.
All right, so B's going to come back. We're going to take a look at some of this footage here. Yeah, I keep on blaming B, but I mean, I think he knows I'm just kidding, right? Like I'm blaming B because it sounds cool, right? What I mean to say is B has highly influenced the decisions I've made recently based on some of the wonderful arguments that he has. Console Kits, Justin, doesn't your brother play in the Foo Fighters or some other band? No, so my brother is not in the Foo Fighters. He's in a band called the Envy Corps. He was a touring member of Slipknot in 1999, I want to say. But he's more of a producer now. What's up, B?
All right, sorry about that. Take 2. Don't put stuff all over your desk when you're trying to live stream because you unplug stuff. But yeah, man, Foo Fighters, congratulations. I'm excited for you. I kind of figured that you're a fan when you could play all those songs by memory, by heart. So it makes sense.
Have you told your wife about?
Shh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to happen in about like 15 minutes. So.
Are you serious? All right, everyone here, go ahead and talk to the audience for a second because I just realized I need to edit the video real quick so it goes over to your
redirect. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Thank you so much. Well, thanks. You've been talking a little bit about CES, and I can pull up the raw footage, gameplay and stuff. But if you haven't already, I just want to thank Kid Vid, who was showing us some good coverage of the MK2 Deluxe cabinet. He actually reached out to me this morning and was like, "Hey, I'm a little bit of an introvert, and I asked him to make a review. I wanted him to either come on and show it off a little bit more." He's like, "Oh, it sounds a little bit like work, but if you want to review it, like maybe I'll let you borrow the cabinet, or I can go visit him."
There you go.
So yeah, maybe we might get some more hands-on look of it. He was actually even saying he was scared to connect it online. Do you think there's any way, like early on, that there would be an issue if he tried to connect it online? He's like scared knowing that it's not out yet because the option is there. It doesn't tell you to like not sign online, right? But the UI from what I saw looks exactly like MK30th.
I'm guessing it's going to have the same integration as the previous one. If his fear is because it's a stolen cab and,
they can like track it down.
I don't think Arcade1Up would ever do that. There's kind of this rule that it's like you never hurt the customer, like, so it literally, if someone is robbing you in entertainment, when I used to work for Dish and we go after people that were hacking satellite, it was, you don't go after the person that's the end user that's stealing. Like DirecTV did that, but there was not a lot of that going on. It was go after the person that's enabled it, right? The software developer that's hacking it, that's selling it, making $100,000 every 3 months. So in this case, you would go after the thief that robbed the truck, or
supposedly whatever. He said he knows somebody
allegedly,
that knows somebody.
Right?
So KidVid, if you're listening, feel free to fire it up and connect it online. I think you're okay at this point in time. There's not much they can do, because I don't think they could even like single out cabs and like ban a hardware cabinet, because it was like, what if you ban your account? Just change your email. But like they can't like single out to that.
I don't think they would.
Yeah.
First of all, they would have to have enough employees that they would even fund someone. Yeah. And they don't.
Yeah, exactly. Worst case, he doesn't even connect to a server. That's true.
So let's take a look at that footage, because that was kind of the main top. I think I'm gonna have to change the thumbnail, because I basically talked about MK and Class of 1981 almost the entire time, and I haven't even had time to talk about like Time Crisis is totally coming out, and then Fast and the Furious is totally coming out. We'll have to talk about that.
9 minutes, so I mean, like, you can hit on those while they pull up the video.
All right, pull up the video. So, for those of you who don't know, there's 2 new cabinets from Arcade1Up coming out, and it's totally Time Crisis, and it's totally the Fast and the Furious. In this video, if you look at the thumbnail, I was trying to kind of get a look of what Fast and the Furious would look like. That is me doing some Photoshop. I think I made that clear, because it's not super colorful. So it's not like obvious that it's the real stuff. Let me pull it up real quick if I can. Can I pull that up? So I'm really curious about Ridge Racer. Like, the questions that I have on Ridge Racer are like what is? I'm sorry, not Ridge Racer. I'm talking about Fast and Furious. What games are going to be in Fast Furious? Is it just, I don't even really know that genre. I'd only recently discovered that it's basically a cruising clone, and that kind of changed things for me, where I was like, oh, it's a cruising clone.
I'm actually, knowing that Fast and Furious was on their list hardware-wise, I don't know what hardware system that runs off of. From an emulation standpoint, it runs off of right now a PC-based emulator, which is Technoparrot. And so they don't have anything in their library that's that level of gaming just yet. Like, it doesn't run off of MAME, right? I don't know if like there's a certain like other type of emulator that runs Fast and Furious, and this is me not knowing exactly what's there. But the Fast and Furious franchise, I think, has 3 games: Fast and Furious Superbikes, and then Fast and Furious Drift. And so those are the 3 Fast and Furious games. I'm wondering if this is a single game cabinet. It could be. I don't know what other games are in that license area. It's Paramount, it's Raw Thrills. But yeah, the game list on this, I'm not quite sure what that they would put on there going backwards. It could be because all those games, the 3 games that I mentioned, or at least the Superbikes one, they're actually pretty difficult to emulate. I've not really got them running super smooth on my PC build. Like, you can play them, but it's just not smooth. And so whenever I feel like that there's a trouble with emulation, I feel like it's hard to port to a system. So I think this is pure speculation that they did their own version of this game. And I'm curious about the hardware running. It's probably why there might be some delays. I think they're trying to get more advanced with their hardware, and maybe they're just not catching up as fast as they hope they can, right? Things like Blitz and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Yeah. It's like, they had the potential that it could run off of it, but I think I would be really interested to see how well this runs, knowing how it plays from an emulation standpoint.
I do like what you're saying about how basically this emulation doesn't work very well out there. So if they come with a really good emulation package for this, that would be pretty beneficial. You can see how crappy my Photoshop is, and I literally was like coloring in right here.
Yeah.
And then I took the car and I was like, let
Hey,
me just put the car
that
over
green
there.
Mitsubishi Eclipse has been one of my dream cars, man. I was a huge Fast and Furious fan. I was 100% Rice Rocket dude in college. I had a Honda Accord coupe with a body kit and like neon lights, and this was totally my jam. So from a franchise standpoint, I really like the franchise. I never played the game that much though. I think it wasn't something that I like sought after to go play in the arcade. So.
I would see it in the arcade, and there was, I think, an auction recently that had the sit down version, and I was like, yeah, I think it went for like $50, by the way.
Yeah, they're often on Captain's Auction. They definitely are up a lot.
Yeah, so here's what's interesting. If you take a look at the stand-up version of Fast and the Furious, when you compare it to the sit-down version, you're like, whoa, that's way off. But if you compare the stand-up version of Fast and Furious, check this out. So you can see the difference. And obviously what I did was I took some of the artwork from, like, I think it was like a skate pod, and kind of overlaid it and tried to match it. It's not perfect. So you can see where it's black and white. That's from the manual. And then this is like the escape pod artwork. But you can see they just took the actors off and then moved the logo up. And then the front of the cab, they took this imagery and put it down here. Because if this was all black and white in the manual, and I try to color it in and kind of overlay it. So we can expect this little stuff at the top to be, you know, here at the bottom. And it's actually not bad when it comes to, like, look at this. The shape of the cabinet looks like the original shape of the cabinet. Like, they decided to do a distinct.
Even the bottom part with the little fins poking out, it's exactly like the original cabinet. So kudos for them to really, you know, trying something different and not using cookie cutter stuff. Like, I was worried, and we thought like Ridge Racer is a great cabinet, but what if that becomes the next cookie cutter racing cab mode? Like, every cab they're coming out now with looks like they really are focusing on you know, developing more authentic looking cabs than creating a cookie cutter mode, except for the whatever was used for the MK30th mode, right? That's the standard one that they could use for multiple things, but things like racers, things with unique controls, I'm all for it. I really like it. So
let's take a look at this video that you have.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the raw footage from CES. I can crank up the volume. You can see as I pan some of the little screen, but you can also hear some of the audio for it too. So like, what was the thing that you're looking for in this video?
So
anything particular?
Let's go to a game like the Rolling Thunder or Galaga. Okay. Did you play any of those games? Because Dig Dug's
Rolling Thunder is right after this. So okay, that's you right there playing Rolling Thunder. All right, here it is.
Okay. Yeah, you see how Rolling Thunder in the top corner, it's got that top right corner.
Yeah, because it's black.
And I swear we turned the lights off, and it was still there a little bit.
So yeah,
like, I think what JT was saying is accurate, that the lights in the room do just, you know, cause a distortion. But what I was trying to say is, I think it's also there with the lights.
It's just
off.
Especially with the blacks in the corner, right? That, like what you were saying, that's that fuzzy part that you can see it's not as deep as
the edge lighting.
Yeah, the edge lighting. So that's exactly what we're looking for, referring to. So
I think the PCB's up a little bit much on the voltage there. I think that's what the problem is.
Yeah, I don't think I have any.
And this
is Galaga, right? This is a very traditionally black game. So
this is tough, right? This is tough. Yeah. Some of that is the lighting. This is the overhead light.
Yeah. But sound is really good. Marquee was really clean. But yeah, you can start seeing some of that fading as you kind of look down on it. And you have an interesting theory about the voltage, but I mean, that could definitely be a reason. But it left us with questions. We felt it was better, but we knew something was slightly different and off. So I mean, hopefully that just gives more people some more context of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, JT, if someone takes footage with complete, I don't think we recorded with the lights off. We should have, or maybe I did on my phone.
I think you did a couple. You got to go look. You got to go back and look.
I got to go look.
Yep.
Anyway, I'll concede 100% to this point. If someone takes footage with complete lights off and just is camera all around, and we don't see the light bleed distortion, I still think you're going to see, because I remember this for sure, if you walked farther away remember we turned the lights off and I walked 10 feet away, you still saw the ghosting. Because otherwise I would have been like, oh, it's just the lights. It's just the lights. But it was more than the lights. There's something else going on. Anyway, is it time to party at your house?
It is. So thank you for sending people over eventually. I probably will head out, but if you folks want to come by, I'm going to be giving away a ton of stuff. I have a Dragon's Lair New Wave toys that I purchased to give away. So that's going away. I have a AtGames Legends Mini because we have tons of those. Remember these little like bezel kit thingies that we were talking about?
Yes.
I'm gonna give away a pair of these. I got this awesome, cool Dragon's Lair
wait. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Kidvid just says, what if I told you there's another game that hasn't been announced inside the MK manual?
Send me a pic right now and we'll announce it live right now. So he's like, man, the teasers just keep coming. That's funny. Everybody's like, what is it? Well, stay tuned. It might be coming over. Justin, if you want to come hang out, we're gonna hopefully talk to my wife. The title of the stream, I didn't even tell her what the title of the stream was. I invited the guy that we purchased the pinballs from to come on. He couldn't make it today, but I do want to get him onto a future show to talk a little bit about Whoop 9. Oh, what a bastard. He says
he's kidding.
He got everybody. He's like, oh, everybody's hungry for stuff. All right, I'm gonna head out.
Do your countdown, and I'll say my goodbye.
Right, sounds good.
All right, so we're gonna go over to B. He just got 10,000 subscribers. That's a huge milestone, right? So I think it's fun to celebrate that, and it's really cool that B is giving back to the community with doing all of these giveaways. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to all of the topics. We'll do another live stream on Wednesday on 19K Fox's channel. So my Wednesday night show that I normally do, I'm going to hang out with 19K Fox on his channel Wednesday night. We're going to be talking about Mandalorian. So this is quick, right? So Mandalorian new episode debuts on Wednesday. If you want to hang out with us, watch that episode on Wednesday, and then Wednesday late at night, we're going to do a breakdown of that episode. It's an opportunity for the community, our communities, to come together and talk about something. Think about it. It's kind of like, if everyone is watching The Mandalorian, you need that water cooler to come hang out at. And so 19K Fox and I were trying to be that water cooler for our friends, but it's not going to be as fun if it's not going to be as fun if you didn't watch it, right? So we don't want to spoil it for anyone, but we are always going to try to make the first 5 minutes of those Mandalorian episodes just to be a high level. Don't talk about the episode, just talk generally about it. So come hang out on Wednesday night, and we got more topics to get to, so we'll see you guys next Sunday. We'll move some of these topics over to next Sunday and see what else comes out this week to be able to talk about. Thank you so much for joining. Head over to B-Kong, give his channel a like, show him your appreciation for all the content that he creates, and join because you might get a giveaway, right? So he's gonna do some type of random giveaway. So that should be fun. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.